Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our show, Victims and Villains creates content like what you're watching right now to educate and engage individuals like yourself on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. And I am joined by a special guest because we're using this opportunity to promote our upcoming full-length feature podcast on the film, which we're getting ready to review. And my name is Captain Nostalgia. I have the privilege of being a host, a podcaster, a writer, and one of the event coordinators here for Victims and Villains. I'm joined by
Alan Cram. I am a writer for Victims and Villains and podcaster and host of the Victims and Villains Patreon show.
Hope After Dark. Find show notes in the descriptions below. We're going to be talking on this episode. We're going to be talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife, the long-awaited threequel from the beloved 1980s series. And how would you describe what this movie's about?
This movie is about the legacy left behind by an estranged father and grandfather to his family and their journey with coming to grips with what is left for them and what that leads to.
Yeah. I didn't watch any trailers for this movie, so I don't know if that's like super vague, but that is absolutely correct. My general reactions for this film, I am probably opposite you. I thought this film definitely lives up to its legacy. This is the film that we should have gotten in 2016. They pay such heavy homage to the legacy, and it's such a beautiful love letter to not only the fans that have waited so long for this third installment into the franchise, but also to Harold Ramis, who actually died before this film could actually come to completion, and he was one of the original cast members of the 1984 film. But I think this film definitely is not without its flaws as well.
I don't see many flaws in this film. I think I agree with you. This is an absolutely wonderful sequel to the original films. The first one in particular, I think it gets the tone and sense of humor of that first film absolutely correct. Absolutely matches that, where the second one doesn't quite as much. This feels more like such a true sequel to the first film in just its tone and the way the story is told with the music and the journey the characters go on. It's such a great follow-up to the original overall.
I think for me, my problems that I had was a lot of the humor didn't land for me. It felt like it was like this awkward 80s transition, like dad jokes mixed with like Gen Z humor, and the two just kind of couldn't find a common ground for me. I know that they were supposed to be jokes because the film quite literally does pause a lot of the times. I really do like our protagonist in this, but she's kind of awkward a little bit. And I think that's where some of the humor, my problems with the humor kind of lie also.
Yeah, I think she's intended to be awkward. And I think a lot of those silences are meant to be there, not just for you to laugh at the jokes, but to make you aware of how awkward she actually is, because it's the characters reacting to her and her sense of humor awkwardly. Like I think it's just meant to expand on what those characters are feeling. So I don't really think it's there like the pause for laughter. I think it's pause for dramatic effect, if anything.
That said, I'm also gonna, and I'll expand upon this in the podcast, but there are several characters in this film that I feel like just feel unwarranted as well. That's another big gripe of mine, where characters feel more like they are shoehorned in for fan service, and I'll expand upon that in the podcast. But I feel like, to me, they just kind of didn't really need to be here because they didn't help at all in the overall narrative.
I mean, we'll have to dive deep into that. I can think of maybe two instances of that. But I think overall the main four characters that this story centers around, um, the two kids and the two adults, I think are a strong basis for the film. I think both of like all of those storylines are compelling enough for me to want to see more of these characters throughout the film. Um, but I also think the film does a great job with the special effects.
True.
There's a lot of practical effects used in this, and they stick to the style of the original films with the ghost stuff. Like it might be computer animated, but it still sticks to the style of the original films.
That is absolutely another strong point in this movie as well. And I will say also too that the pacing in this is really good. Like I never found myself like I was bored or wanted to leave. But this film I feel like is made for Ghostbusters fans. Like this is 100% fan service. And while yes, it does push the story and the legacy of the franchise forward, if you're not a fan of the Ghostbusters film series of the original two, or even of the real Ghostbusters cartoon, or I just, to me, I just don't think you're gonna enjoy this. And I kind of am outside that camp to where, like, I enjoy the original Ghostbusters. It's an alright movie. I am not in that fandom that is like Die Hard, and I feel like this is definitely a film that is going to satisfy Die Hard, but it's kind of be dull for the casual audience.
Yeah, and I think there's such a wide appreciation for the Ghostbusters overall. So even if you appreciate the films just a bit and have seen the first one a few times, I think you'll appreciate a lot of what this film does. But yeah, I don't think this film was made for anyone who's never heard of a Ghostbuster or doesn't know who the Ghostbusters are or is familiar with Slimer. I think there's a lot here that fans will enjoy, but I think there's also enough here that even people with a passing knowledge of the Ghostbusters can appreciate.
Yes. All right, so we're gonna expand our mental health moment in the episode. So make sure that you guys subscribe. We'll have links below, and kind of talk about that. But let's run down our Rorschach rating scale real quick. On a 0 to 5, where does this one land for you?
Okay, so for me, this is one of the best films I've seen this year. I absolutely
Okay.
give this a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
And I will expand on that I will expand on the reasons behind that and my very interesting experience seeing this film um, in the full episode.
So make sure that you guys subscribe. I'm gonna cut you down right at the halfway point. This is a 2.5 for me. Like I said, I was really entertained. Special effects were really great. Acting was solid, but there was just I'll explain. Make sure that you guys subscribe below, and have a good night, guys.